Welcome back to Oneself. My name is Stephen Maher. With me today, with me always, is Adam Bartleman. Adam, thank you so much for joining me today, my friend. How you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. Good to see you.
Good to
Back in
see
the
you, brother.
States.
Back in the stage for a little bit, and then the travels will continue. But folks, speaking of the States, where I would consider money to be the religion of the United States, we're talking about that today, y'all. And just money, the greed, the all that stuff that I see kind of encompass the society in which I grew up in. I got a lot of thoughts, y'all. I got a lot of thoughts on this. And first and foremost, I think what I want to talk about is that I see the younger generations what they idolize is like, oh, like making money and what they want to do. It's not like they have goals or dreams. Like the goal is money. And what Adam so aptly brought up, and I'm gonna let Adam dive into this before we hopped in. And it's like instead of focusing on growing money, what we should really be trying to do is like self improvement, right? And skills and knowledge often translate into money, right? Because it's like again, playing the game. Adam and I talk about this. It's like okay, like I got to play this dumb game that we've set up as humans, right? Where like I got to like, spend my time to get paid in this thing that isn't even real. Because if you look into finance at all, y'all, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard in 1971. And so money has not been backed by anything since the 70s. So it's literally, it's smoke and mirrors, right? It doesn't exist really. It's just that we believe it does. And so then it does, right? And so what I'm trying to say is that, I would love to see more people prioritize self-improvement. And again, Adam and I were saying this before we hopped on as well. Not all money is good money, y'all. And how you make your money matters, right? And if you're doing something that doesn't feel good or you're taking advantage of people, or you're hurting other people instead of helping people and providing solutions, which I think is the better way to create wealth or to create a form of payment, helping solve people's problems is so much more fulfilling and just better for the world than like trying to step on people and crush them and, withhold wages from your workers or whatever the fuck people are doing, right? To like amass riches like Smaug the dragon in the Tolkien series, right? In The Hobbit. I think, dude, that when I look at these like billionaires, brother, I'm just like, you're just a human Smaug, just
Yeah.
and I'm like, didn't anybody watch A Christmas Story growing up? Like, what happened to Scrooge? You know what I mean? Like, didn't anybody learn from that? That left a huge impact in me as a child, where
Yeah.
I was like, oh, like that guy, that guy was no good, right? And then
Yeah.
he had
You
his
missed the point.
he missed the point, man, until the ghosts came and like he was like, oh, I get it, and went and helped little Timmy the
Yeah.
next day,
Yeah. That was a
man.
beautiful scene.
It was a beautiful scene, bro. I'm like, did no one watch that movie? The last couple generations. I'm like, geez, Louise, brother. And it's like, but like then the culture in America shifted again, very America centric, where like movies like Wolf of Wall Street, and then I think Wall Street in the 80s, right? With like Michael Douglas and Charlie Sheen, I think,
Mm.
glorifying greed in a way, right? And Wall Street in general, glorifying greed and money, money, money. And like, it's all about money and who gives a fuck how I get it, right? It's like they, and so it's like the culture shifted from caring about other things to like money, again, money becoming the religion of the culture which I grew up in. And I want to talk about it. I don't think it's any good, And so, Adam, what are your thoughts, man? Tell me your opening thoughts on this topic, and what are you thinking,
Mm.
brother? And I loved your opening
Man.
thought on it too, like your opening thought, which I mentioned. Like, I really appreciate that perspective.
Um, yeah. 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 A lot. I liked a lot of the points you made there. There's so many. But yeah, ultimately, remembering what it like shifting the perspective back to like, what is it you think we're doing here? What is it we think we're doing here? Were we born on like if we just zoom out for a second, zoom out and zoom in at the same time, like think about this. You've taken a birth and you're in a human body. You're existing in this third dimension. And like this is magical. This is insane if you really think about it. If you just extricate yourself from the fearful loops that our minds run through because of the programming that we've been subjected to our whole lives, and just take a minute to sit in the awe and wonder of the fact that we exist and are experiencing the hilarious and mystifying limitations of a human body, and just appreciate that for a moment and think like, did I incarnate into this experience to be worried about amassing, as you said, fake numbers, like imaginary numbers in a bank account? Like, is that the sum total of should that be the sum total of my existence? Does that make any sense? It doesn't make any fucking sense,
Don't make
man.
no
It's
sense,
like,
man. Yeah.
it's like, come on, guys. And sure, we could easily say, anybody could say, like, as I've heard the argument many times, it's a privileged take to be focusing on self-improvement. The hierarchy of needs, we're further up the pyramid because, and again, keeping in mind that, yeah, that involves a pyramid, that, those foundational things are taken care of. We're healthy, we're comfortable, we're safe, we're uh all the things, all the layers of privilege, right? And like, for sure, that's a great argument, and like, there's something to be aware of, but also recognizing that no matter what our circumstances, focusing on what is best for the evolution of our awareness, like the agenda of our soul. I personally believe, it's the point that I'll kind of really add here, is that focusing on that primarily, no matter what our circumstances are outwardly, is going to result in all of those other foundational layers being taken care of as well, just as long as we trust and, pull out of this kind of tailspin of fear that our society is in. We're all in collectively and individually. So that's what I would start with, is like, yeah, man, it can't be just about money, and it can't be like this whole fear narrative that everyone seems to exist under, in our paradigm here. Maybe that's not all there is to it. What do you think about that, though? The whole fear, or what direction you want to take it in?
No, yeah, like when I say that, right? People look at you crazy, right? And again, I get playing
Mm.
the game. I am playing the game, y'all. Like I have a day job, right? We have this beautiful like little side project, and I hope one day it will become again, and I hope one day it could fund Adam's in our lives, because it's like then we could focus all of our time into like stuff we care about, which is improving the world through conversation, like raising topics, and trying to help people. And but it's like I have to play the game, and I get that you do too, probably, whoever's listening, whatever you're doing to put food on the table. I understand that. But I don't know. What I'll say too, Adam, is that like, and you mentioned fear when it comes to money. And it's like I think that's the new form of slavery, is through debt, right? And
Mm.
the anxiety, the fear, again, they place on our minds, again, with something that's not real, technically, right? Money isn't backed by anything. Once again, if you have physical gold or silver, that's been considered money, right? For all of human history. So it's like, if you have some of that, like, yes, technically you do have some money, but the dollar or whatever you have, that's not technically real. It's not backed by anything. And and so when they put people in credit card debt, student loan debt, car debt, and everyone is doing that on purpose, amassing these material things when it comes to like cars or credit cards. Student loans, maybe you could justify a little bit more, even though they're outrageous and predatory, because it's like you're learning a skill and knowledge, hopefully, right? Means to an end. But again, it's like some people can't crawl out from under that interest. And so when you place those feelings of fear and anxiety on people, you're trapping them from making decisions. My whole 20s, brother, I've talked about this in previous episodes, but it's like my whole 20s paying off my student loans, I was risk averse. I wasn't open to taking risks because I
Mm.
had to pay back those things that I signed on to. And because like my parents co-signed, and I didn't want to like leave them high and dry on like defaulting on a loan that they co-signed with me. And so I felt the obligation to my parents to like, and myself, I guess, to like pay that money back. Right. And that sucked because I probably would have like lived my 20s in a different
Yeah.
way. But then you get older and you realize like that's by design. That's a form of control. So like people don't leave their jobs. So people don't, live a life that maybe is more true to themselves. So they're trapped in this economic form of yeah, like servitude to
Yeah.
who, right? The upper classes. And yeah, man, I'd love to see, if you have any thoughts on that, because it's
Yeah.
just I experienced that shit firsthand. And then here's the only thing I'll say before I want your thoughts on it. My main goal in life, and we've talked about this before, is like freedom, you know?
Yeah.
No
Mm.
chains on me, no things keeping me
Yeah, yeah.
back from living the life I want. And that was a huge one, man, that I was like worked hard to get out from under. But what did it cost me? 10 years of my youth, my 20s,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and it's a good point that you add on there at the end about freedom, because obviously that's, the opposite of this debt slavery. But recognizing that when people are in fear, their their perspective narrows, right? You get pulled into a tunnel vision of like a trauma response. You don't see the options that are around you. You see maybe only a couple, because that's the way that the mind works when operating under fear. So, keeping people stressed out by being in debt is a way of keeping their minds closed. That's a way of not, that's a way of preventing people from expanding their awareness and staying in that doldrum, staying on the hamster wheel and not questioning things and not questioning themselves and not being open to different ideas and opportunities. That's really how I see that, because ultimately, if we consider ourselves, tripartite beings, as I believe we are, um,
What's that
s-
word?
s-
Sorry.
break it down like three part, like mind, body, spirit, for like the kind of
Okay,
new
cool.
age way of looking at it. It's everywhere, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, whatever, id, ego, superego. If we consider that, like, you can't be like, someone might consider themselves free if they have all the money and the space to move around and, not be under anyone else's schedule, working for someone. But if your mind is not free, then are you really free? Because in my personal experience, I can just share, my anecdotes of meeting people who have considerable wealth and who are not happy or free, and who are just as, if not more, stressed out than people with less money. And it's like, are they in
Terrified of
any?
losing it.
Exactly, exactly. Or having like a bigger paycheck, but having even bigger bills to pay and still being paycheck to paycheck. Because again, the conditioning, like, okay, well, now I need this car, or else I don't, or else I'm not displaying my success, and then I'm not getting the outward validation, which is the way that I believe I get love, because I've only been conditioned to seek conditional love. I have no concept of unconditional love. Like, it goes on. Like, we can kind of pull that apart, unpack that. But ultimately, like, yeah, are you free if a part of you is not free? Like, if your mind is free, I mean, then I could also flip that and say, like, someone living in oppressive conditions outwardly, like physical conditions, could be also totally free if they are free within their minds. So there's a little bit of a paradox there. But my perspective would be like, there's no freedom without freedom of the mind, freedom of the soul, which of course is always free, but we're conditioned into the experience of believing we're not, and then that produces the experience of having these feelings, produces the experience of suffering. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the whole journey, is trying to work our way out of that, the path to self-realization, expanding awareness, the path to enlightenment, as the Buddha discussed, getting out of the trap of suffering, of the wheel of samsara, the reincarnation cycle of just coming back to do this over and over again, because we were so attached to the body, because we were so attached to the material elements of this ultimately illusory reality. Because again, like, this is a small part of the game. This is just a part of the game, and we are much bigger than this. So yeah, but I would put it back to you, like, we're talking about, there are layers to this, right? It's like, we can say how, like, money's not even real because it's not backed by metals anymore. But what if it were? What if it were still backed by metals? I mean, I would say that that doesn't make it any more real. I mean, we could easily be existing in, I mean, depending on your perspective, whether it's easy or not, but I would say easily be existing within some sort of barter system and unconditional love and trust and cooperation. And like that would be part of the way I would describe a utopian society. But I believe we could be existing that way. A lot of people will say like, oh, you should be buying metals or you should be investing in this cryptocurrency or buying these stocks. And to me personally, it's like none of that ultimately is real. But like I understand the perspective, of course, as I said, the nothing backed currency versus gold backed currency. But I would still say, it's like we gotta focus on the real purpose of being here, which is the evolution of our soul. And then that very interestingly takes care of everything else. So it's not just about the gold, but like what do you think? How does that land
No,
with you?
you bring up a good point, and I think that but yeah, gold or dollars like that can't feed your stomach. You can't eat that. You can't eat that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
the barter system, brother, like I've seen that
Yeah.
coming up more because and that's beautiful. Like I know there's an example in my life that I've seen where it's like someone's trading eggs with an organic farmer who doesn't have chickens, right? So it's like you're getting like
Nice.
vegetables for eggs. So it's like that's a beautiful like little trade. Or like my mechanic, right? You know what I mean? He's open to barters, right? With people
Cool.
in the community. And so it's like, if he needs a plumber or whatever, it's like great. I'll figure, your next couple oil changes or whatever, like on me while you fix my toilet or whatever the case is. Like those are beautiful examples of just skills and knowledge and helping each other out in community, bypassing the monetary system, which I think people
Yeah, of
will hate, which would hate, right? Like, governments, banks, all those things would hate that.
course.
But again, it's just, people helping people. And then at the same time, you did mention too, it is interesting when you work on yourself and it seems like more opportunities have come my way in my own life where it's like I don't know what is that? Is because my energy was reflecting outwards and I'm easier to work with and
Yeah.
people want to work with me or they want to hire me, in music especially, or I'm very chill, bro. Like I'm very like calm and
Yeah.
at peace more than I've ever been in my life. Not to say that I don't have work to do, but it's just like people want to be around me more or hire me
I
more
mean,
or want to work with me more because I've really tried to like make the effort internally. And
yeah.
so, to again, while we're playing this game, all of us, it's like great. Like I have more opportunities to do the game and play and do the things that I want to do at the end of the day, which is, talk with you or play music. And, both of those have, this not yet, right? We hope one day maybe that will help us out so we can focus more energy on it. Or it will happen, brother. It will.
Yeah,
But
man, it's just yeah.
same with music too, man. It's like, it's like, can it cover all my bills? No, but it's like it can still help add to the pot, and at the same time, it's not even about that. It's like the process for me of just becoming better, and just seeing the progress within myself and that knowledge
Yeah.
and all that stuff. Like it's like that. Those are my goals. And again, I come back to this a lot, where it's like the question of priorities in society where the
Yeah.
society I grew up in, the priority for most people is, yeah, their bank account. And I'm trying, I don't want to be like, come off as judgmental, but from my perspective, it just seems insane because, like you said before, this is like a miracle. Like we're a miracle. Like the fact that we're here, the
Mhm.
cosmic lottery, the fact that I exist, and to make your whole goal, to get the new car, the bigger house, and like you said, man, like it's like the people that have the money, it's like they're living right at their means, It's like they're a lot of the times, like, yes, they might be making a lot of money, but they're spending it just as fast. So it's like you're just poor with better stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
and keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
And so that's stressful too, man. It's like yes, you have monetary material things, but it's like you're still stressed out and you're still afraid of like losing that and on the hamster wheel, right? And the younger generations are aware of this, I think, because I listen to them. And like, in China, they call themselves like the rat people, like the young kids, like in the rat race. And in America with like Gen Z, like I'm like, everyone's aware of like the raw deal that it is.
Mm,
And because guess what? Like they're not, the societal agreement is falling apart where it's like, okay, if I work 40 hours for you, I can, buy a house and have kids and live a
yeah,
decent life. That's fallen apart completely. And as the dollar, again, I'm kind of interested in finance, y'all. Like the dollar's value, I mean, you see inflation, the purchasing power of the dollar is going down more and more each year, which impacts, the country, the world, because it's the dollar's the reserve currency.
yeah,
So it's like the agreements are fading fast, right? The societal agreements, the cultural agreements between, employers and workers. And what is the end result of that? It's like people are kind of apathetic, I think, towards the whole system in general and towards the role that money has to play in our society. And while that's happening, I think, yeah, the answer, brother, is like for us to look internally, like you said, and to
yeah,
truly explore ourselves and reconsider, right? Like reconsider like what can actually provide like wealth, I think, and all of its meanings, which you've mentioned growing food in the past. I'm like, okay, God forbid, things go, the economy crashes again, like 2008. And it's like people are starving, but it's like if you have those chickens or that neighbor with the
yeah,
vegetable farmers, and you guys like, no, you have eggs still, and you have, and you're growing
yeah,
vegetables. And it's like, so worst case scenario, I don't want anybody to starve. And so it's like if more people are doing that, and obviously it's hard if you're living in a city or somewhere and someone's like, I don't have land, I can't afford that. I understand all those things. I get it, and if your circumstances don't align with that. But I'm just saying maybe we should reorient more towards that, and that takes time.
yeah. And at least having the experience of bartering once or twice, what that would do through the experience of just expanding, you could think about that, but I think having the experience a few times would really expand the awareness, go like, wow, that felt good. We just did something outside of the monetary system. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually would be a very expensive feeling, in my opinion. But yeah, there's a lot of these things to consider. It's really interesting. But like again, the phrase or the quote, I can't remember who said it, but that we often use in mention on this show is the whole you can't or you never see a hearse. Sorry, you never see a U-Haul behind a hearse because it comes back to that. Like I would always because there's so many arguments, right? There's so many arguments, like you just mentioned. Well, people in densely populated cities can't just be like, oh yeah, I'll plant a vegetable garden out back. Like, it doesn't necessarily work that way. And there are so many arguments that could be made, so many different points we could go back and forth over this kind of thing all day. But ultimately, I would just always bring it back to like, what is it we think we're here for? And is it just to survive? Like, and I think a lot of people see it that way. It's just this game of survival because that fear mindset keeps that lens so narrowed. And if we can just recognize that, whatever it is, whatever practice we can bring in order to expand our sight and be able to look a little bit deeper and just again ask the question like what is it we're here for? Is it just to survive or is it to thrive? And what does thriving mean? Does it just mean having access to material goods? Does it mean being in alignment with oneself and expanding the concept of wealth? Like what does wealth mean? Is it just a bank account? Can it apply to time spent with family, health of the body, time devoted to expanding one's awareness, thinking on spiritual concepts, this kind of thing, right? So many are still, but as you said, with the younger generations becoming more aware of this, seeing what was in previous generations so easily and completely bought into, the younger generations questioning, seeing the obvious nonsense, the bullshit that system produces, not only burnt out people, but a burnt out ecological system because we're all connected if people are suffering, that means the environment is suffering. Seeing that like the system that has been running here on this planet doesn't make any sense, that's a beautiful thing, because if people start to question it, it starts to fall apart, because it is actually all a co-creation by all of us. It's everyone's belief that's keeping it going. And obviously, if everyone just checked out of the system overnight, yeah, things would be a little bit bumpy. But maybe that's what's necessary for our greater evolution, and maybe it also doesn't have to be bumpy. Maybe it can be a smooth transition if we gently wake up and people don't get so attached to, or don't remain so attached to the fearful ways of responding to things. Like letting go of the, like, what do you think would happen if what do you think would happen if we just asked people to share equitably, if the people who owned the majority of the world's wealth were somehow asked to give away 50% of their wealth, like a tithing, sort of like in the church? Like, how would that go? Maybe not so well. Maybe there would be violent uprising, but again, who would be doing it? Because the majority of the people on this planet are not in that bracket and are suffering. So I don't know.
Right. No, but I don't know, probably call me a communist or something, radical
Yeah,
radical left or
yeah,
some shit, bro. Which is
yeah,
crazy because I have empathy and don't want other humans to suffer, that somehow is like me trying to give people a free ride, or that's me
yeah,
trying to, or like that's people being lazy or not working hard, or, getting a free meal ticket. It's like, no, it's just like I just don't want other people to suffer, you know? And
yeah.
is that so bad? Like, is that
Well,
bad?
look at what happens in your country when people talk about, even like just suggest healthcare, like universal healthcare. It gets shouted down as communism, like, and it's like, what? Where is our fucking priorities at, man? Like, when that is the
Yeah,
case, when we can't, like, the idea of equality expressed is like
yeah,
so, but at the same time, I also understand, like, holding both perspectives. And it comes from this fear-based idea. It comes from this illusion of separation, like the separation consciousness that thinks like, well, yeah, if I have to work and give away some of my money, then other people are going to do nothing, and they're just going to take advantage. And that's kind of the belief. Again, it's a fear-based response. But it's like, what if just consider the possibility that if everyone's needs were met, housing and food and safety, access to clean water, education, what if that would not, consider the possibility that that would not inspire everyone to just kick their feet up and like just drink alcohol all day? What if everyone's, again, foundational layers of the pyramid were taken care of? What if they were then inspired to give their best? And perhaps overnight, relatively speaking, in terms of human lifespan, overnight we would see like just a huge expansion of invention and innovation and philosophical thought, expanding to improve the collective lot of everyone. Like, what if that were the case? And not, it would be this like complete, destruction and disarray that would come from people not having to chase after money out of fear of starving. Like, what if it wasn't that? Because we're still looking at that idea of sharing equitably. We're still looking at that from a fear-based mindset, and that's where people, I think that's what motivates people or inspires people to shout it down as communism. Because it's still like, just it comes down to like a shift in consciousness, I believe, just
yeah,
like from fear to love. It's like, without that, then there's always going to be the fear response of like, no, 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 someone's going to take advantage of me. And it's like, well, and then to add to that, I would say like we're already being taken advantage of. So
totally.
what's the difference? It's not working. Whatever we're doing is not working. So maybe we should try something else.
No, man. And it's like I know history too. Like I look at Stalin and I see Mao Zedong and I'm like, yeah, like
Yeah.
just as fascism has killed millions of people, like So has like capitalism, communism, like, they've all killed, right? Because human nature gets in the way, right? No matter
Mhm.
what ideals people go into those systems with, none of it's been working, right? Like none of it, and including the monetary system. And again, me with finance, right? I don't care what any of y'all think about crypto. Just recognize that money is used as a tool for control. And so when Bitcoin came around, and I'm not like a big proponent, I just think it's interesting, right? Because again,
Yeah.
if money is used as control, here comes this anonymous person, Nakamura, I think was the name of this anonymous person who created Bitcoin as a way to subvert the financial money systems, right? And so people in third world countries who are, there's books that you can read, y'all, like Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Like the banks use
That's a good one.
control. It's a good one, right? And so it's like,
Yeah.
the IMF, like these world banks, federal banks, whatever, in whatever country, they use money to enslave the rest of the populations, right? And they steal the resources of third world countries, and just awful monetary policy. The French do it in Africa, like the US do it in
Yeah. And
Central and Latin
Haiti.
America. Like it's just, yeah, Haiti, like just awful, right? So here comes along this technology in 2011 with Bitcoin, and it's like, okay, so it's like if you have a phone and you're in a third world country, it's like, okay, you have a way to subvert, to get out of that financial system,
Mm.
right? And all of a sudden, what if you're in Venezuela and in the 2010s, and the currency collapses, but it's like you had Bitcoin. Or if, like, even if I'm in America, brother, and like what if the dollar collapses like it did in '08, or or it has in history? It's like it's just a way to hedge against irresponsible financial money policy, which has happened, again, human
Mm.
nature, y'all. Like it's happened time and time again, and I'm not saying like, dive all into Bitcoin again. I'm just saying it's interesting. And the point of it was to bypass all these fucked up systems that are hurting us, right? And what is all that leading back to, right? It's like, okay, once again, we have to play this dumb little game of this make believe, right? Of like we're all pretending to go along with it, when
Yeah.
like the real growth is within us, man, and as you've mentioned. And yeah, brother, I think it's just interesting. And so it's like people recognize it. Like that was an example of like recognition, where it's like the governments, the systems that will, and here comes along these, I don't know, no one knows who they are. That's the real mystery of Bitcoin. It's like it's anonymous. And how many things are
Mm.
anonymous in this day and age, like, right? Like everyone knows everything about everybody. And here comes along
Yeah.
whoever, right, and puts out this like little system to subvert all the things that are chaining us to debt, and to like, this financial slavery, right? And yeah, so again, as a student of history, as a student of financial policy and all that stuff, I just, very interesting to see this thing come into being, to again create
Yeah.
freedom for people.
Yeah, and again, looking from like the energetic perspective, it's like all, from a spiritual perspective, like none of it matters. I could just say that, could take the position that none of it matters. It's all equally unreal, but perhaps that something like cryptocurrency is a step in the direction of allowing people to loosen the hold that the whole monetary system has on their minds. So it's like, basically, yeah, if they're hedging themselves with a cryptocurrency account, they are feeling safer. If that's causing a person to feel safer and not be so fearful and dependent on the fiat money system. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, fiat. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So if that's the thing that makes someone feel safer and allows them to settle down and allows their tunnel vision trauma response to life, like their complex PTSD, to relax and open up their vision to be able to then expand into considering things that are higher up that hierarchy of needs, then that's fantastic. Again, using something to recognize that you don't need it. It's kind of like plant medicine, like using plant medicine and to the point that then you recognize, oh, I never actually needed it. Paradoxically, I needed it to get to the place. Through my experience, I needed it to get to the place of realizing that I don't need it. So it could be the same kind of thing with something like cryptocurrency. Whatever it is that's going to allow people to loosen the grip on the steering wheel of their life and like stop white knuckling it so hard and just trust the process, then that's fantastic, in my opinion, from that perspective. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's like, you get, I love the example of like the Buddhist monks imprisoned by the Chinese during the takeover of Tibet, and they're meditating in their prison cells, completely at peace, praying for, sending love to their captors, because they're just like fully aware of where they're at in terms of their spiritual evolution, and not attached whatsoever to the material trappings of this world, to the trappings of this world. And I just believe that always coming back to the awareness that we're spiritual beings having a human experience just helps to dial down the intensity, dials down the volume on this like insane, fearful noise that we've all been experiencing for so many generations, and to remember that it's not so serious. And yeah, and then even just coming from that spiritual perspective first, maybe that's what allows us to relax and consider the different options. Maybe, and then for again taking the other perspective and considering the fact that we are playing the game and moving through this life more gracefully and skillfully, maybe that sort of perspective would allow one to be able to open up the awareness and see the different options, the cryptocurrencies or the metal purchasing opportunities, whatever it is, because like it's all good in the end, whatever. We are here playing the game. And it's like it can sound like I'm just recommending that people just don't care about anything, but obviously that's not realistic for most of us as we're moving through processing our karma, which is our attachments, which means again playing this game. Just trying to hold more perspectives and more awareness surrounding all of it so that we can do so more peacefully and move through life more gracefully.
Yeah, what do people say? None of this is financial advice.
Yeah.
Should probably put that as a disclaimer somewhere in here, bro.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I can hear the voices of those people that would have, the people from my family who would respond to this so negatively to
Yeah.
the some
"You
of the
gonna pay my
ideas.
rent?"
And
Like, it's like,
yeah,
yeah.
like, cool, go meditate and, pull some money out of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
ether, which,
"Meditating will pay my mortgage, will it, brother?" Yeah, it's like, of course,
yeah,
dude, I can hear
exactly.
all
And
that
it's
stuff.
yeah, but it's like you wanna keep looping back into a situation where you have a mortgage to pay. It's like, that would
Yeah,
be my response. But, that's another good point, I think, is like, don't throw those concepts at the people who aren't ready to hear them, because that's just gonna create confusion, frustration, anger, you know, and it's gonna push them further away from you. So it's like what I would say is, just live and be the example. Because if we're throwing those ideas at people too hard, they're gonna recoil in defensiveness, because challenging the ego can feel like threatening that person with death, essentially. That's how the ego perceives those threats. So not questioning the framework under which someone has, not questioning the framework with which someone has built their life too pointedly, too aggressively, because it's not necessarily going to take you as far as you might think. Sort of you'll catch more flies with honey than you will with vinegar, I think is the saying. Um, So yeah, just being the example, not challenging too many people on those ideas. Uh,
yeah.
because it yeah, because those responses, it would be fair to expect those responses from those who are still deeply bought into the illusion. But that's why we're having the conversations here. Is like just challenge, throw out some different ideas and challenge some of those mental models that we've been living with, because as far as I can see, most of them don't make sense.
Don't make no sense, man. And we've mentioned this in
Mm.
the past too, where it's like, we're not trying to, force anybody to change, right? Like, that has to come from within you. But what's the best way to create change in this world? And we've mentioned this in the past, and it's like to be the best example you can be, because other people do watch, right? Like most people are in their own worlds, and most people are in their heads, worrying about themselves. But it's like I watch, right? I'm watching other people. I'm watching mistakes. I'm watching things people are doing right, and
Mm.
it's like when I see someone doing something a little bit better, or what I perceive as better in my opinion, I take note of that and I'm like, okay, how can I incorporate that into my life? Because humans are really good at following, right? We beat the shit out of people who are, carving the path for better or for worse, right? Or for creating a new path. We don't understand it, we don't get it. But then once it starts to make a little bit more sense, when the path is a little bit further along, people start following.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's what we're trying to do with what people may think are our crazy ideas, but we just perceive as, it's a crazy world and we're trying to make sense of it, right? What's a Krishnamurti quote, right, that we love so much, it's no measure of health to right?
Yeah, to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. As you mentioned, humans are operating from the ego, and the ego is like a pattern recognition system. And anything that breaks the pattern initially is seen as dangerous. And that's why expansive thinkers in the past have been killed and even crucified in offering new ideas. And but that shouldn't be something that pulls us away. We shouldn't drop into the fear of speaking our minds. It's really important for everyone out there to recognize that their perspectives and their more expansive thoughts on things are things that should be shared. So, because everyone's out there just as tapped in as anyone else. So, if anyone has like these ideas that uh, they feel are ready to be shared with those close to them, like absolutely go for it because you got it within you. And they might laugh, they might ridicule you at first, but that's how it's always gone in throughout history. Because again, that pattern recognition system, the masses, they want to blend into the crowd because it feels safety in the herd, right? But then, then what are we? Just hanging out in a herd, a bunch of sheep. So yeah, yeah, man. Like, don't be afraid to share the new ideas because that's what really drives the engine. That's what really moves this whole creation engine forward. Always redefining what right and wrong is for us because those things change over time, and recognizing that, yeah, maybe at one time it was right for where we're at in our evolution to be mired in fear and following the prescribed sort of play to get the job, work for the corporation, work for the pension just so you can, feel safe physically in your body while being locked in again a very basic patterned way of thinking and looking at the world. And now it's consider the possibility now maybe it's time to break out of that. And yeah, in doing so, just don't be afraid to share those ideas with those that you feel are ready to hear them.
Probably think that's a good place to wrap up episode 30 of Oneself, brother. A little milestone, celebrate that win. And folks, if you like anything you heard, if you resonated with it, you feel the need to support us, do so in the ways that are free. Speaking about money, these don't cost you a thing. If you like, comment, subscribe, just engage with us. We really appreciate it. So if you could do that, please do. And Adam, any closing thoughts on this discussion on personal growth instead of financial growth? Any of that stuff.
Yeah, just my one of my other favorite quotes: lay up your treasures, not where moth and rust doth corrupt." That's part of it. Which is the whole point being, don't focus all of your energy on the material, on the worldly stuff, because that's not what you can take with you. Again, the other one, no U-Hauls behind the hearse. So yeah, just always take a deep breath, zoom out, and refocus on what you really feel your priorities are. What we really feel our priorities are in this life. Is it like the stuff that's coming from the mind, like I think I need to do this to survive, or like where the feelings that are coming from the heart space? What really feels like the most important thing to do? Because I personally believe that's always going to be coming back to focusing on the evolution of our souls, which is like being more loving. not being so rooted in fear here and moving through our days from that fear perspective, worrying about survival, worrying about money, bring it back to love and how we can be of service and help lift others up rather than hoard and hide and just being in fear. So that's all. That's all.
Thanks so much, y'all. We'll catch you next week.